Hi, and welcome to the Roasters Guild quarterly Trierside chat. Today, I am Adrienne Blaski every day, but I'm Adrienne Blaski, and I am a volunteer member on the communications committee, and we're the committee that puts on these Trierside chats to talk about anything and everything that's important to our Roasters Guild community. Today, I'm joined by an exceptional panel who's here to kind of talk about Roasters Guild Retreat. I know that some of you might be on the fence about going, so we're hoping that this gives you a really good and exciting reason to join us down in Georgia in about a month and take some classes, meet your Roaster Guild members, and have a really great time with about 20 different machines. Our panel today has a very great variety of experience levels, both in the field of roasting and also in attending Roasters Guild Retreat. We'll be joined by Mike Ebert, who's the senior consultant at Fire Dancer, and he has been attending retreat for many years, is what we can tell you. We're also joined by Iliana Delgado, and she is the specialty coffee coordinator at the Colombian National Coffee Growers Federation. And she's actually one of the Roasters Guild member recipients of the Diedrich Scholarship to Retreat this year. So she'll be talking about being a first-time attendee and also being a recipient of this wonderful opportunity available to potential retreat attendees. We're also going to be joined by Cameron Heath, who's the director of coffee at Revelator. Cameron went to his first retreat last year, so he's joining our panel as a second-year attendee and can give us some insight into what he thought going into retreat and then what he's kind of expecting this year as a bit of a veteran. Miles is joining us as the business development manager at Akawa Coffee, and she's going to be chatting about being an educator at Retreat. So if there's any of you that have instructed SCA classes in the past and maybe are on the fence, she'll kind of give us insight into what it's like to be an educator at Retreat. And then finally, Emilio Lopez is the manager, director, and founder of Topeka Coffee. Many of you might know him as the chair of the Roasters Guild Executive Council, and he'd like to chat about this year's challenge. So we've got a really fabulous panel today. If you're watching this live, please send in your questions to #RoastersGuild. We'll be fielding those at the end of our panel discussion, just kind of on what their insight is into retreat. And if you're watching this post, feel free to tweet those in anyway, and we'll get those answered. So I'm going to start off with Mike Ebert, who is our most veteran retreat attendee.
You had to use the term veteran, didn't you? So I was asked to talk about kind of what the how the Roasters Guild started, specifically the retreat, and kind of how it's evolved over the years. And I'm just looking at my list of things to make sure I don't miss something. And you know, how has it changed over the years? So I guess the best place to start is kind of the history of the Roasters Guild itself, because it's very intertwined. And while I was the first chair and part of the first group that kind of got things off the ground, I cannot take credit for the idea of Roasters Guild. There's many varied stories. There's one in Roast Magazine that I wrote a few years ago. So if you want more detailed than 10 minutes, go look there. But essentially, it was the rumor that I heard. It was some of the founding fathers of the SEA after it was 95, 96 SEA Expo. Were sitting around drinking scotch and beer and basically saying that it had become a show of flavored coffees and coffee jewelry, and we need to basically succeed from the SEA and form our own little club, because what few people realize is that the SCAA was founded by roasters. That was basically the group that met at fancy food shows. So it was Don Holly, who was kind of Ted's number two at the time, said, well, we can't have them pissing into the tent, so to speak. We'd rather have them pissing out. So they came up with an idea of we should start a guild. So Don Schoenholt led at conferences for multiple years This goes back in the late 90s up until Miami. It was like 4 or 5 years, Roasters Roundtable. It was called the Guild, even though there was no structure. And basically, couple hundred of us got in the room and dreamed about what we wanted to be and what we wanted to see. And from those conversations, there was basically community was kind of the number one goal. And number two was a retreat. It was honestly more focused on roasters getting together and drinking beer, among other things. And there were secret handshakes formed and all kinds of wonderful things. But nothing ever really got off the ground. And then going into Miami, Don Schoenholt felt he was no longer able, willing, for whatever reason, to lead the annual meeting. And Don called me because I complained the most about nothing ever getting done and said, would you lead this meeting? And I had never stood up in front of more than 50 people in my life, more like 5. So the year before we had 200. So I invited my closest friends who became some of the fellow leaders who deserve just as much credit as me. Paul Thornton, Sean Hamilton, Spencer Turr, Peter Giuliano, Bert Von Romer, Boyd Gildner. I'm missing a couple. And year before there was 200 people. This year we had basically the 6 I invited, and the one oddball was Peter Giuliano. So I figured I had killed the idea before we had even started. It was dead. So we agreed. We got together, and I said, "Hey, we still got an opportunity to make this happen." The retreat was kind of top of mind on what we thought was important as a starting ground. So we agreed at that year's what used to be called the Joint Board Committee meetings that fall, and we were going to have our first meeting and plan our first retreat. Well, the first retreat happened anyway, and it was done by Don Holly, and it was basically a mini SEA. It was a great event. It was held in Portland at McMinimans Brewery and Hotel. You had to share rooms and bathrooms, very retreat-ish, but it was a mini SEA. He pulled some classes out of that, and it was a starting point. And then that fall, we were going to meet and discuss how we wanted to change it. Well, that fall happened to be September 11th, and our meetings was canceled. So we were pretty certain that, okay, that's the death bolt of the Guild. So we ended up finally a couple months later, most of us, it was our first trip after September 11th, met in Chicago at a hotel room. And just to tell you just how strange things were, Stacy Woods, who was then assigned to us as our staff liaison, who really should get most of the credit for getting these things off the ground. She was our rock solid ace in the hole, super staffer. So it was basically about 7 guys who met in her hotel room, probably breaking every sort of harassment or sensitivity law there was. And for a day and a half, we basically hashed out what we wanted to be when we grew up. And, half the day discussion was focused on whether we should let greenies in, as we referred to importers at that time. We didn't want them showing up at our table. Literally, that was a half a day, arm wrestling. It got ugly. But we finally agreed that if they had to sample roast and it was an integral part of their profession, they should be invited. Kind of secretly, we're going, well, we need sponsorship dollars, and they probably have more money than we do. So let's get them in the tent. So we that was our biggest discussion. And then we kind of hashed out our bylaws, and they voted me in. Little they know, probably a mistake as their first chair. And we went forward. And then that January, we met for the first time at SEA headquarters. This was back when they were in Long Beach, but not in the one that you may all be familiar with. This is when they were in the World Trade Center, connected to the Hilton. And we met for a day and a half with Ted Lingle, who we ended up battling for about the next 5 years, even though I love the man to death, and he was huge support of the Guild. But he had different ways of looking at things, but he challenged us to be better. And honestly, it was kind of his idea that as we discussed retreat, that he came up with the idea of the Roasters Challenge, which has kind of been a forefront of of retreat, of getting together with 9 or 10 other people on your team that have not been have about the same experience or different levels of experience, I should say. So there were there were newbies on your team, and you had to roast a coffee, and there was some sort of challenge, and it got cupped, and you got your name on the challenge cup if you won. And that was kind of the basis of retreat and how we started. And so that following summer at Lake Lawn Lodge in Delavan, which I will take credit for finding the place. It's where we used to have our Christmas party. Thought this place would be perfect. We held our first retreat. So how's it evolved since then is back then we couldn't go to, if you were at last year's retreat, we had, I didn't even do the dollar amount, but it had to be $250,000 to $500,000 worth of roasting equipment and ductwork and materials out there. Well, the first year, nobody's going to give us that. So, I volunteered my sample roaster. I put it in the back of my truck and drove it up. People sent in roasters. We hooked up everything. Boyd Gildner on his own dime built the exhaust system, which that first retreat blew out over the lake, beautiful lake, and they were blowing chaff and smoke Saturday afternoon over a wedding party. And we were pretty sure we were shut down at that moment. And Stacy and I were looking at the hotel, our main manager, who came running over, and we're like, oh no, we're done. And she supported us, and we had the contract. The wedding party is going to have to move. So that's our claim to fame, that we shot chaff over wedding guests at our first retreat. And it wasn't until about sometime on that Saturday that we realized that we had hit a home run, that this became our culture. And one of the things we focused on really back then is, I made the comment earlier about letting green people in, the greenies, but it was more, we didn't want to be sold to by anyone. We wanted it to be an event that we could sit and chat and talk and learn and educate each other without the pressure of, because most of us, I used to be banned at the SCA Expo. The companies I worked for had a booth. I couldn't come to the booth because I had people who just wanted to come in and sell me coffee instead of me selling products. So we didn't want to have that happen. And, flash forward how it's evolved is one, staff does an amazing job. We got last year, one of you who's on the council could probably fill in how many different roasters we had. Just unbelievable of the equipment that we have that's available. I now, as a consultant, people who tell me to roast, I usually talk people out of, if it's this time of year, come take a roasting class with me or go to retreat. It's go to retreat. That's where you're going to get more knowledge and hands-on, all that type of equipment. It's incredible, but probably the biggest is just the work that's been done since, the secondary thing. There was community, there was a retreat, which was an offshoot of community, but it was education. And it took us a long time. Now that I'm now teaching, it's my full-time job, basically teaching roaster level 1 and 2 in the old world. Really, those weren't being taught in complete cycles or often enough, other than Expo every year, until about 3.5, 4 years ago. So retreat was one of the few places that you can go. So it's not just hear the Mike Ebert show or the Danny Goot show or, somebody else on how to roast. This is material that was developed by 200 to 300 of my peers. Some I like, some I don't like, but I respect every single one of them, that they roast every day, they're hands-on instead of, most of that initial group that I referred to, the Paul Thorntons, the Sean Hamiltons and the like, we met at educational events, but they were put on by Probot or Agtron. And I don't want to disregard those companies. They're great companies who did it out, but they were still ultimately trying to sell us something. And any of the early roasting events at Expo, back then, conference and exhibition, were, they read from a book and they were good speakers. And nothing against any of those people. They didn't stand behind a roaster. So you go to retreat now, it's you're surrounded by 200 to 300 of your peers. I just got a question I'll answer really quick, is how many people. I think it was over 100. I'd have to go back and look, 100, 125, something like that. And it was beyond our wildest expectations. And the rumors of the early years of the drinking that happened are totally false. It was, we had lemonade and cookies every night. And sung Kumbaya. So those rumors are not true. So can't think of anything else.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. I think it's really important for us to know the history and the work and everything that's gone into getting it off the ground, to the work that goes into pulling it off this year with everyone involved in organizing. So if you're thinking of your questions for Mike, remember to tweet those in to hashtag Roasters Guild, and we'll have him answer those at the end of the panel. Fantastic. So now we're going to switch gears and kind of go to the other end of the spectrum. We're going to have Iliana talk about being a first-time attendee, kind of talk about what her expectations going into retreat next month are, and yeah, kind of what are you looking forward to? So I'll let you take it away.
Thanks, Adrian. Hi. I hope it works well. Can you hear me, Adrian? Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, thank you very much for thinking or considering me as a panelist for this hangout. I'm very happy, very honored to be here. I really enjoyed that last question. What are you nervous about? I'm nervous about this one, especially after Mike's. But when my first SCA event was in Brazil, and it was the first at an origin trip. And it was the first time that I really got engaged with the SCAA community and the other initiatives that were there aside from Expo. And in Expo, I learned that there was a Roasters Guild. I was not a roaster then, so I assumed that I was not able to go to retreat. And then in 2014, when I bought my roaster, I found that finally I could be able to join retreat. But I never really made it to retreat before that because I'm in Colombia in South America, so it was pretty far away for me to be able to go there for 2 days, and I had been already to SCAA Expo. So when the scholarship was announced last year, I thought that it was a really nice opportunity. Maybe are starting to work with the roasting or wanting to learn more. So I did not apply because I assumed also that because I was a foreigner, I was not allowed to apply. And then I had the wonderful opportunity to meet Emilio and Stephen Lee in Ethiopia, and they cleared out all of my questions at an origin trip and said that it was okay that I was a foreigner, and it was okay if I was a roaster outside of the United States, and it was okay if I was a roaster only with 2 years of owning my own roastery. So this year I thought either I do it this year or I'm never doing it really. So the reason why I really want to attend the retreat, mainly the community, I think that it's a very unique example to have all of the roasters together. Although a lot of the roasters in the United States could be considered to be competitors, just to see the community really join and be together to be able to uh, give out a message and a message about quality, a message about how coffee could be better, and the diversity of machines. More than you being able to actually learn from different machines, it's also considering that good coffee and good quality and good roasting can be done uh, with the various machines. So it's not just saying that for you to be able to reach a certain quality of coffee, you need either this origin or this specific brand for machines. So, so I think that that's just I think it's a true example of community, and I just wanna see it. I wanna be there firsthand, and I've heard so much about it now that I am a Roasters Guild volunteer for the events committee. Uh, Planning last year for the Roasters Guild retreat and not being able to go was a little bit more tempting than before. My expectations also are to actually test my own skills. As a roaster, I roast on my own and maybe with one or two other people, but being able to roast simultaneously with other people, see what other people do, what do you think is important? I think that that is one of the things that I am most looking forward to. And in the competition, I'm very excited to see what the competition is about, how it really works, and how we all get together as a team to actually accomplish one flavor. So the competition probably is something that I am most looking forward to. Truly nervous about the talent show. I'm a little bit like stage fright in that sense. So, but I think that that is also a very, very good way to blow off steam, especially after so much roasting. And in general, I must say that I have a peach-shaped heart for Georgia. So being able to be in Georgia for this retreat is extremely significant and emotional for me. I have a Georgian grandmother, so I am very much looking forward to be back in Georgia. And honestly, I'm very thankful with the Diedrich Scholarship for being able to give us this opportunity to newcomers. And I very much appreciate also the Roasters Guild to being open to not having only inside the United States roasters, but to actually have this as a global community. Even before there was this merge between all of the SCAs, this is truly an example of community. So thank you very much. I think that those are most of my expectations, and I very much look forward to having more people come and join so that our community grows bigger. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That also gives us a really great segue to thank Diedrich very, very much for providing 5 scholarships for different roasters to come and join us at retreat this year. It's an incredible opportunity. I highly recommend applying for it. If you're not sure, you just go for it. Because it's a really great way to be able to get that opportunity, especially if you're coming from a far distance, to kind of bring down some of those costs and get an opportunity to connect with your peers in a way that you don't really get to do every day for a lot of roasters. So congratulations to you again, Iliana. We're really excited for you to join us down in Georgia, and how fabulous that you get to reconnect with Georgia. All right. So going from the first year attendee, we're going to be hearing from Cameron, who is going to be attending his second retreat this year. So he can talk a little bit about kind of what he was thinking going into his first retreat, and how his expectations were confirmed or totally changed, and what he's excited about for this year.
Yeah, can you hear me? We good? Okay, cool. So leading up to my trip last year, I completely missed the registration for 2015. So everyone was like, "Oh, you missed out, man. It's gonna be a great time." So I had a whole year of basically people being like, "Man, you missed out. It's gonna be a great time." So when I got a chance to apply or register for 2016, I didn't know what to expect at all. But when I got there, I mean, it's pretty much a room of your peers, and it's quite overwhelming to see everyone else that is tucked away in their roasteries, and all in one room, and seeing people that like Mike Ebert, you hear about him but you don't know the guy. Hey Mike. But you get to hear all these the grandfathers of roasting that you've heard about but you've never seen. Getting to meet people like Rob Hoos and whatnot, which is pretty cool. Just being able to see living legends. That was really cheesy. What did I get out of it? A lot of education, and great grandfather. Anyway, a lot of education. There's a lot of courses, a lot of people that have a lot of knowledge that are willing to share. I was with a bunch of people in the groups, the Laffy Tappies, that humble brag, we won the Match It Scratch It last year. And Ron from Madcap, I still talk to him on a daily basis. So a lot of connections that you get that you can carry throughout the year, and basically you can just trade ideas off of. And it helped me grow as a roaster. Like they'd be like, "Hey Ron, I got this question about this. You want to do a little swap? Give me some feedback. Let me know." So basically those relationships that you foster throughout the year, and you basically meet up at events, and you just keep it all going. I'm looking forward to how close this event is this year. Actually, me being in Birmingham, just hop in the car and drive down a couple hours, and there you go. Usually I have to go up north or west or whatever, So it's not as daunting of a task to get out to these events. Maybe I'll win another Master Scratcher or something. I think I got my hopes up my first event winning something, so I don't think that's gonna happen again. But it'll be a fun. I mean, just the education alone and the friendships and the people you meet just in different aspects of roasting is worth it enough for me. I think that's all I got.
I think you've got way more. No, just kidding. That's fantastic. I think that gets into a really good point of like how many fantastic, great minds in roasting are attending retreat, and folks that you read their books or read their writings on roasting. Retreat is really a great opportunity to pick their brains and ask them what makes their roasters tick. And that'll lead us pretty well into having Miles talk about the education side of things, because a lot of these folks are teaching the classes that you're attending and are standing by those roasters waiting to help you out. So I'm gonna let Miles take it away, and yeah, don't forget to, that was super Minnesotan. Don't forget to tweet in your questions to #RoastersGuild. So Miles, I'll let you take it away.
Okay. Hey everyone. Yeah, thanks again. Also, I know we're all kind of starting off by saying thanks for being a part of the panel, but yes, thanks for having me on here. The education role for me is not specifically a new one when it comes to especially roasting. But I'm pretty excited this year to be able to join on for retreat and begin instructing for the sample roasting class. It's going to be quite a fun time also. I happen to be instructing with the person that taught me how to roast, Jen Apodaca. And I'm not claiming at all to be of the caliber that that Cameron is referring to with I call them coffee celebrities, honestly, but I'm not of that caliber at all. But I'm really excited to be able to join on and be able to show folks sample roasting, especially because I'm coming from the unique perspective of working for a manufacturer now of a sample roaster, #bias. But I'm really, before even instructing at retreat, I was leading an educational facility for one of the greenies, as Mike calls them, on the East Coast, and that really opened my eyes to the world of SCAA at the time and SCAA instruction. And there was something that was both really valuable for me, being a resource to students coming all over the world to that facility, and being able to learn about being a barista, learn roasting skills, learn about being a coffee buyer. But for me also, it was quite a developmental moment also, because a lot of people will think, okay, well, it's education. You come in, you learn a few things, and then you go back home, and that's that. You get a couple of handouts and you're done. But it's really a healthy challenge as a coffee professional to be an instructor, because everyone has a really different approach to learning. Everyone has different preferences, different goals in mind. Even when I started my classes for any of the modules or pathways, I start with asking people, why did you pick this pathway? Why did you pick this class? Why are you here? Let's talk about it. And you really get to learn a lot about why people are choosing to oftentimes further their career in coffee through this really great formalized education structure. But I don't have too many organized thoughts for the specific portion, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to being able to connect with a lot of the roasters attending retreat. We have a question. So what do I learn as an instructor? So that's a really great question. I think for me, I identify most as a roaster, even though I've worn my barista hat, I've worn my retail manager hat. I've never been a green buyer, but I've taken that pathway a few times now. I think as an instructor, I'll focus on for the roasting pathways because that's a pertinent area for this talk. I learned more about the why of what we do. So it's very easy, I think, with roast instruction to say, okay, this is how we do it. You push this button, you move this lever, you do this as your batch capacity. But with instruction, being an instructor, you have to answer the whys. Here's why we're doing that. Here's a little bit more about why our batch capacity is this. This is why our charge is this. This is why we're doing things this way. And you really start scratching beneath the surface with a lot of the processes with roasting. And for me, being a nerd of a number of subject matters, but mostly a roast nerd, it's really it's allowed me to really go in depth with a lot of things. Why should others teach is another really great question. Others should teach if you're, for the purely selfish reason, if you're choosing to advance your knowledge in coffee, if you're choosing to advance your career. Instruction is a really great way to do that. You, again, get to challenge what you know already. And for me also personally, anytime as an instructor, if there's something that I don't know that my students will ask me, I make it a point to make a little research project for myself and get them an answer by reaching out to my network and to my resources or my grandfathers and mothers of roasting. But I think aside from the selfish reason, also something that's really great about instructing is that you're contributing to this global network of information that exists for people. You know, there's always something new to learn in coffee, and being able to instruct is you're contributing to that. And I think it's a really healthy balance because there's so many of us that want the information, so many of us that have a lot to learn, but then we have to be able to reciprocate that as well with a lot of our experience and what we know already as instructors. So yeah, that's a bit of all I got.
Thank you so much. That's such great insight. And I was looking up how to sign up to teach after that chat. It's great. It drives home the point of, I think, too, one of the reasons that the Guild, I feel, is a big mission, and also why the Trierside chat is in existence, is because if we have all this information that we keep to ourselves, like, that's not going to help further anything and just sits with you. So thank you so very much for your insight, and I'm sure that there will be some questions coming in for you pretty soon here. So yeah, then getting into the last piece, I know we've had a couple people mention the retreat, challenge, and maybe there's even someone on this panel that's looking for a repeat over here, so listen in. So Emilio, I'll have you speak and tell us a little bit about what we can expect and what you're excited about for next month at retreat.
All right. I hope everyone can hear me. Well, before I get started on what to expect for this coming one, actually, let me take us back in history a little bit. This is going to be my 15th retreat as well. So yeah, first let me go back a little bit in time and explain a little bit how it was back in the day, the challenge itself. Remember that 16 or 17 years ago, first of all, at retreat, we were there pretty much, again, to have fun, first of all, but then to roast and cup coffee, and like we spent a whole weekend roasting coffee and cupping coffee. And like the challenge, whether it was a single coffee or it was 2 or 3 or 4 coffees, it was really about, who would roast it better and who would make it taste better on the cupping table. And we had, Friday and Saturday all day long roasting for us to cup on Sunday. Results or the winner wouldn't be announced until Sunday at lunchtime, because we would cup all day on Sunday morning, because they would take so long, those cuppings, because we were pretty much inputting everything by hand on a cupping form, and then someone would go back in you know, backstage or in the back room, just punching all those numbers and cranking those numbers, and you know, come out at lunchtime and announce the winner. And that slowly you know, started changing because it was so complicated to getting all those results, and also as the industry started moving also, or changing, and we started discovering new ways of brewing coffee, the challenge also started including other ways to judge the coffees, whether that was going to be brewed at a Chemex or a V60 or cold brew, or you know, depending on how would you like to blend or not, or pre-blend, post-blend. It started, you know, being a little more dynamic on how would we evaluate the coffee as well. It slowly started changing from having everyone scoring the coffee to just a selected group of people, sometimes 5 judges, and 5 people would be, you know, hiding in a room, you know, getting caffeinated and pretty much trying to select the winner. Having that said, though, you know, it's again, it's changed and it's evolved. But this year that I get the privilege of organizing and designing the challenge, because it is up to the chair's discretion on how to design it and what to create as a challenge. You know, I thought of the early memories that I have of retreat, and I wanted to bring back that tradition of having every single attendee cup the coffee and judge the coffee. So this year's challenge is called You Be the Judge. So pretty much every single attendee that is going to be part of a team will be slurping coffee and judging, and their score will determine the winner of the challenge. And also, it will include two stages or 2 parts. The challenge will consist of judging a brewed coffee, and you know, we're also going to be cupping a coffee. So the brewed section of the challenge will happen Saturday morning, or Saturday almost at noon, and then the cupping part will happen in the afternoon. As always, we will be announcing the winner at the bonfire. So the way it is going to happen is that the first thing that you're going to get when we start on Thursday evening is that you're going to get 4 samples of a coffee, roasted coffee. You're going to go out into teams, break up into teams, taste the coffee, blend the coffee, and come up with a plan. Another thing that's changed over the years is that back in the day, we were just giving coffee, and you would go out to the tent and roast as much coffee as you wanted. But we started noticing that there was a lot of waste of coffee, of good coffee. So this year, you're gonna be able to, or we're gonna have teams, you know, tell us what they're gonna be using, and we are gonna hand them the coffee already weighted for them to go and roast specifically what they're gonna be needing. So that's gonna happen between Thursday and Friday. Friday will be all roasting, all roasting for the challenge part till 10 p.m. You know, that's another thing. Sometimes the roasters or the roasting tent would only be open till 8. Now we have the roasting tent open till 10. So on Saturday, you will be turning in your coffees. And again, every attendee will be part of the judging panel. So we're going to have 250 scores times 4 coffees. So that's quite a bit of coffees to be judging and scoring. But thanks to our big sponsor, or thanks to our sponsor, Cropster, we will be able to get those results instead of, again, doing it by hand like we were back in the day, taking 3 hours to sum up the numbers and to add up the numbers and come up with a winner. We are going to have him right away, and by lunchtime, we'll know the winner of the brewed part of the challenge, and then in the afternoon we'll have the cupping part done. So yeah, that is going to be the challenge, and again, we're going to be announcing it at the bonfire. Saturday evening.
That's fantastic. Thank you to Cropster for helping us, I should say, the staff and the executive council not have to do the math. We all know that after a weekend at retreat, you probably are not wanting to do more numbers. And it sounds like a question came in. That's great, but will there be tequila? Can you? Okay, I am unmuted. Great. So who is the green coffee sponsor this year?
Sorry about that. The coffees will be sponsored by Atlas Coffee, and they'll be sponsoring 4 gorgeous, awesome tasting coffees. I'm not going to say the origins right now because most likely we're going to know that until you show up at retreat. All the rules and everything will be emailed to everyone before retreat, so you start planning on what your strategy will be for the challenge and how your team is going to divide responsibilities and all that. But possibly the origins of those coffees will wait until we are at retreat to know them. But it will be Atlas Coffee.
Fantastic.
Yes.
So thank you, Atlas.
Miles, there will be a competition for the posters again.
Awesome. So it sounds like then everyone is going to be connected with their teams before retreat starts.
Indeed. Yes, we've been doing that for the last 4 years, I believe, that we've emailed the group specifically to let them know who their team members are. So they start chatting between them and planning and including drawing up or doing their poster before retreat.
Fabulous. So for anyone that has signed up already, stay tuned to your inboxes for all of those important details because you don't want to be the only one at your table that has no idea what's going on. And for anyone thinking about signing up, you should sign up soon so you can get connected. Fantastic. So that is the conclusion of the overall panel discussion. So now is the time when we're going to be going through any questions. Please keep those coming. #RoastersGuild. One of the questions that came up is directed toward Iliana. Is what did you submit for your scholarship? And do you have any suggestions for people who maybe would like to apply for it next year?
Okay, so as I said, I get a little bit stage fright with a talent show, so I did not submit a video. I wrote an essay. I thought it was a little bit easier for me to share my thoughts about why I wanted to apply. And what I suggest is just to really say what it is that really drives you towards roasting and what is it that you're willing to learn. So I believe that with this scholarship, it's based more already done as to what you want to do and what you want to accomplish by attending. So I do encourage everyone to apply. I'm sure that if you are thinking about it, there's probably already a good story to share, and there's probably a lot of things that many people are doing out there that we do not hear about. So this scholarship is also one way to be able to tell people that you are involved in the industry, that you are doing something about roasting, and that you are willing or eager to do more. So that's what I did. I just told people what is it that I'm doing as a roaster before being at the FNC, and now what I would like to accomplish by still being a roaster, even though I'm not actively behind the roasting equipment as we speak. But I do believe that learning about roasting is also a good way to go all the way back to the producer side and understanding how to connect both parts. So that's mainly what I shared, and is how being able to attend retreat will impact definitely what I do as a roaster, but also it can impact what I'm doing right now in my current responsibilities in the FNC, and it's also to give a little bit more of insight to producers of the true impact of roasting and why quality is so important at the farm level when we take it to the roasting level as well. So yeah, I encourage everyone to apply.
Fantastic. Is there, then the next question that's come in, and I'm thinking maybe Emilio, this could be for you. Is there new innovation tent information?
Yes, actually. So we got a few requests from sponsors interested on showing some of their latest technology to our attendees. And Kate McGee thought of the brilliant idea to have a separate little tent to showcase those new, products out there. So yes, we're going to have a completely separate area to show these products. And I believe Miles will be in that tent, possibly, showing us a little bit of the new features, probably of their new software, if they have them. I think that's where we're going to find them. So yes, we're going to have, I think it is 7 sponsors right now interested on that tent. So from brewing to roasting and also, I think, filling equipment.
Fantastic. And Miles, do you have anything to add to that, since it sounds like maybe you know a little bit about it too?
I know a little bit about it only because we're going to have sample roasters there. But the name for me alone is enough for me to be curious about what else is going on in there. But yeah, it's pretty much what Emilio was describing, and I'm not going to go salesy at all, especially because of the introduction that we started off with this video. But yeah, I'm really excited to show our sample roaster. So.
Fantastic. I think that's going to be a really awesome addition to Retreat. So be sure to check it out while y'all are there. Kind of speaking of going to Retreat, a question came in, and maybe Mike, this is a good one for you to answer. Do I need to bring anything with me?
A healthy liver. Just an open mind, and I understand Iliana, the shyness and all that, but something Miles said hit me about teaching and why it's important, because I teach all the time and I learn something all the time, but I start out classes by telling people I'm the smartest guy in the room on coffee, but not because of what's up in my head. It's because of who I have on my phone. I have the expert on just about everybody, and most of those people I've met at a retreat. I've had a beer with, I've been on a team with, where every single class there's at least one question that I don't know the answer, and I take it upon myself to find out the answer, and I learn something. And most of the time I remember, not always. I am a great grandpa, I guess, now, so please excuse me if I forget stuff. But it's exchange cards, be open. You never know. These are going to be your future employers, your future employees, your future best friends, and more importantly, when you get those odd questions about EPA inspector comes in, or you got a new roaster, or you got a gas problem, or you've got a coffee you don't know how to roast, or whatever the case may be, that's where you're going to get your answers. So, and a swimsuit, of course. Yeah.
I think one of the other good ones that came up too was extra luggage for all of the swag you're going to bring home. So.
Well, just to dive in, I'm a little upset, that you're not going to have an unlimited supply of green, because I happened to be 2 years ago at Roasters Guild Retreat in Lake Lawn, because I live so close, was the only one with an empty pickup truck at 2 p.m. in the afternoon on Sunday, when staff looked at me and said, "Hey, we have about 12 bags from Red Fox. Do you want them?" So I was the lucky winner of 12 bags of Red Fox coffee. So I'm a little disappointed I won't get that this year. I'm looking at somebody.
Write to your exec council. And someone is asking for a friend. Is there really a talent show? And if there is, what is everyone here? What are your talents? So,
well, it's going to be karaoke, talent show, open mic. You know, karaoke / talent show / open mic. So if you want to get up there and make a fool of yourself, go ahead and do it. Otherwise, you know, have the DJ play on and you sing along. It's going to be open for whatever you want to do up on stage. It's always been a karaoke night. But this time we're just going to have an open mic there. If you want to bring up your guitar or just, you know, get up there and tell us a joke, you can.
all right, that sounds great. So tell whoever asked that question, tell your friend, yes, there really is a talent show. So then I'm gonna ask the question, maybe Cameron, are you coming with a talent?
Absolutely not. No talents. None.
How about Mike?
No, you know, when you get to be my age as a great grandpa, you got to take it easy. So I just sit and watch the young folk.
And Miles, are you coming with a talent?
Man, I hate to distill 4 years of art school into a talent, but if anyone wants to do a choreographed dance, I'll partner with someone.
Just kidding. I'm in. Let's dance.
You're in. All right.
Let's do it.
Look at this, Roasters Guild bringing together talents here. One of the questions, getting away from outside of coffee talents and back into coffee talents, one of the questions that comes up a lot, I think, is there another event that our members or any interested people should attend through the Roasters Guild, or is this the one that they should attend? I think I'm going to start by directing this question toward Danny Goot, who's hiding on the bottom. He's the unofficial member of our panel and our exec council member for the communications committee. So Danny, what are your thoughts on that? It seems like maybe Danny is muted, so we'll try again.
Is that better? Can you hear me now? Okay. So yeah, sorry about that. There are other events that the Roasters Guild does that we could talk about. But if you're looking for roasting, this is the time you can get over 200 people together in one room and talk about coffee roasting. And not just that, but sharing experiences, like everyone has said. And this is the one that's fully focused on that. So if the question was if there's another roasting event that should be attended, this is really the one that you should jump on as soon as possible. The first one I went to, I believe, was 2002. It was the second one. Sean Hamilton, who was my my supervisor at the time, went to the first one and said he wanted to go to the first one before I went. So I've been going to them pretty regularly since then, and I learned so much from everybody. I learned so much from people who have just started roasting. I've learned stuff from people who I've been learning from for years, and that's why I attend, because the more I can learn, the more I can share with others. So this is definitely the event that I'd suggest going to if you want to expand your vision with roasting coffee.
Sorry to put you on the spot there, Danny. Also, one of the things that just kind of came to my attention is we're very America's centric group here talking about the retreat in the US, and there's actually going to be one in Poland. There is October 4th through 7th. Dates just came in for me. So if you are watching this and you're one of our European members for the SCA and you're interested in going, please consider attending the one that's going to be in Poland. I believe this is the second that they're doing, and last year sounded like it was a blast, and we had a couple of folks from the States that attended to check it out too. So yeah, if you're in Europe, check out the Roasters Camp in Poland in October. Perfect. And I guess I'll kind of redirect that question as well to Emilio. So do you think that this is the event to attend? Is there another one that is maybe helpful?
Yeah, totally. So going back a little bit in history again, you know, Roasters Guild 17 years ago or 15 years ago was really about retreat. As we, you know, as a lot of us volunteers, you know, started to give more hours in and staff got, you know, definitely more solid, we started thinking, hey, we need more events because our you know, our members want more and need more, and especially on education and about origin and about not just roasting, but evaluation, sensory, and all that. So what it used to be a single event guild turned now into the following. So we have a guild, a retreat every August, and then we now have at least 3, sometimes 4 origin trips a year. We now have Sensory Summit in January. Then we also now have the Roasters competition that happens. It is a USCC event, and our champion this year is going to go to the World's Roasting competition. And now with unification as well, that, you know, this eventually will come a thing for next year. We're going to start having a little more international events that are going to be Roasters Guild events. So yeah, again, we have several events a year. Whether you want to go and learn and experience and play around with roasters, and roasting machines, or, you know, your peers, or you want to go and taste and have fun tasting honey and tasting olive oil at UC Davis and learning about other industries and a lot about you know, how other products get evaluated, or whether you want to go learn to origin and also be on a trip with 25 roasters and learn about other things. So we have several events now in a year.
Perfect. And in addition to that too, if you're interested as members or member companies in hosting member-driven events, please reach out to the Roasters Guild via roastersguild.org or email education@sca.coffee. And I think we're kind of coming up here at the end of our scheduled hour chatting about retreat. We try to do these Trierside chats quarterly, usually on Wednesday afternoons, evenings, depending on your time zone. And really, we try to structure these Trierside chats to be on topics that are important to our members. So I highly encourage you to, if you have any ideas of what you'd like our panels to discuss, to please reach out via the content submission form on the Roasters Guild website, or email your exec council members. Danny is in charge of the committee that organizes this, so feel free to reach out to Danny, who will pass that on to the team. And these are here for our members. So let us know what you guys want to chat about, what you want to hear people talk about. We aren't always trying to get you to come join us at these crazy events, but these are really great opportunities to see what's happening in the Guild and really get the most out of your memberships. Perfect. So thank you, panelists, very much for joining us today. Thank you to Lily and the SCA for hosting us here and getting this online for us. And then thank you to all of the retreat sponsors who have given us the opportunity to have this really awesome event held next month where everyone's going to have a great time. So thank you so much and have a great night, everyone.
Thank you.